All right, folks, grab your coffee, your points calculator, and maybe your lucky pen. Because in this video, we're looking into the mysterious world of Australia PR invitation rounds for 2025. Yep, it's that time again when everyone becomes part data analyst, part fortune teller, trying to guess when the next big round will drop. Now, we don't have a crystal ball, and if we did, the Department of Home Affairs would probably move the goalposts right after we looked. But what we do have is history, a trail of past invitation rounds, their timing, their weird gaps, and the occasional plot twist that made thousands of applicants either celebrate or scream into a pillow. In this video, we're going to break down what those past patterns tell us about how 2025 is shaping up, when the next invitation round could hit, how often they might happen, and what kind of strategy actually makes sense in this unpredictable system. So, if you've been refreshing Skill Select like it's a stock market app, relax. We're about to decode the chaos together. Why predictions matter and why they're messy. Before we start forecasting, let's remind ourselves why anybody cares about this. Your chance of getting invited is timing sensitive. If you misjudge when the next draw happens, your expression of interest could sit idle for months. The Department of Home Affairs sets planning levels each financial year that cap how many invitations are issued. Further, economic shifts, labor market needs, election cycles, and policy changes can derail patterns. So yes, we'll be making educated guesses, but with the humility that Australia's migration planners sometimes change the rules mid-game. What history tells us about the patterns? Let's dig into what past rounds have shown us, which gives some guideposts for 2025. In earlier years, invitation rounds for subclass 189 and 491, family-sponsored visas, followed a predictable monthly schedule. Applicants could almost set their clocks by it. New invitations were expected once every 4 weeks, creating a sense of rhythm and routine in the migration cycle. However, that pattern has changed noticeably. Recent data and observations show that the spacing between rounds has stretched, often falling between 6 and 8 weeks. Instead of a fixed timetable, the rounds now seem to respond to broader administrative and economic factors. At times, the department appears to delay rounds to clear backlogs or reassess occupational ceilings before issuing new invitations. In other periods, rounds may occur closer together if there's an urgent need to fill skill shortages. Some analysts describe the timing as semi-random, while others suggest a rough quarterly pattern, especially during quieter periods. The overall picture is one of flexibility rather than consistency, a system that adjusts according to demand, processing capacity, and policy focus. Big invitation patterns. The Skill Select invitation on November 7, 2024, marked one of the biggest waves in recent memory, with around 15,000 subclass 189 invitations released in a single sweep. That momentum, however, was followed by an unusually long silence. Nearly 9 months passed before the next major 189 round on August 21, 2025. The timing caught many off guard, since new program years typically open with activity closer to September. This long gap suggested a period of recalibration, as the government likely focused on processing earlier applications and rebalancing its skilled migration targets. Meanwhile, state-nominated visas under subclasses 190 and 491 followed their own timetables, driven by how individual states manage their nomination quotas. These cycles often move out of sync with federal rounds, creating alternating bursts of activity and quiet stretches. In effect, the invitation rhythm now alternates between mega rounds and long pauses, depending on national priorities and demand. Ties, cutoffs, and priority occupations. The cutoff points for each occupation in Skill Select fluctuate dramatically from one round to the next, particularly when competition is intense. In high-demand fields, the threshold can soar far beyond the standard 65 points, with some niche or oversubscribed professions needing 85 points or more to secure an invitation. When many candidates share the same score, the department applies what's known as the date of effect rule, giving preference to those who submitted their expression of interest earlier. This means timing can be as crucial as total points. Another key factor is targeting. Not every round is broad-based. Some focus heavily on specific sectors that align with national priorities, such as healthcare, education, and the skilled trades. For instance, the August 2025 round leaned strongly toward these areas. As a result, even highly qualified applicants can miss out simply because their occupation isn't part of that round's targeted list. What changed in 2025? The curveballs. The 2025 program year is already proving that Australia's migration patterns are no longer following their familiar script. The August recent invitation round arrived earlier than most anticipated, signaling that the government may be taking a more proactive approach to managing quotas and clearing the growing backlog at the start of the new financial year. This move effectively breaks the long-held expectation that the first major round usually happens in September. At the same time, several states are still slow to launch their 190 and 491 nomination programs, leaving many applicants increasingly focused on federal rounds instead. Analysts suggest that this shift could indicate a broader recalibration by the Department of Home Affairs, possibly placing greater weight on employer-sponsored and state pathways rather than the traditional subclass 189. Altogether, 2025 has shown that even the typical 6 to 8 week rhythm of invitation rounds is no longer a dependable rule. Predicting the 2025 invitation rounds. Now comes the speculative bit, reading the tea leaves for what might happen next. Based on the timing of the August round and past government behavior, the remainder of the program year is likely to follow a looser but still somewhat predictable rhythm. After the early start in August, another invitation round could surface in November or December, roughly 6 to 12 weeks later. Moving into 2026, we might see a fresh push between March and April, often the period when the department tries to meet mid-year targets. By June, activity may taper off unless there's leftover capacity or a policy-driven reason to issue more invitations. In total, 2025 could see around 3 to 4 rounds, fewer than the old monthly pattern, but more active than a purely quarterly schedule, depending on shifting government priorities. What this means for applicants. Predicting the invitation pattern is one thing. Using it to your advantage is another. To stay competitive, you need to be prepared at all times. Keep your expression of interest active. Make sure your documents are current, and maintain readiness so you can act immediately if a surprise round appears. Strengthening your profile early is key. Improving English scores, adding professional certifications, or gaining extra work experience months in advance can make a real difference. This year's not going back to the monthly forever model, but more dynamic, reactive rounds. 3 to 4 rounds in calendar year is a plausible forecast, with November or December being the most likely next anchor point. Your best play is staying ready, improving your points early, and monitoring priority fields.